Welcome to the Amplify Horse Racing podcast. I am Annise Montplaisir, joined by the lovely Miss Kaitlin Christopherson. And this was a very special episode because it is our first collaborative episode in which we teamed up with another podcast that we're both fans of and that I have worked with in the past, the Retired Racehorse Radio podcast, co-hosted by Joy Orr and Kristen Kovatch Bentley. And they had asked about me joining to be a guest on their podcast. And we had already talked about having them join the Amplify podcast. So let's just do a collab and share the love.
This went even better than I could have imagined, Annise. It was so much fun. They were so wonderful to talk to. So much was learned and, so many shared experiences that hopefully other people hear and are familiar with as well, or, get involved in either the Retired Racehorse project or start listening to their podcast or vice versa. These two were absolute pleasures, and I'm so happy to know people like them in the racing world. And so I can't wait for our listeners to listen to this.
We have great energy and we cover everything from the challenges of retraining an off-the-track thoroughbred to horse show boyfriends and husbands and everything in between. So horse girls unite and let's dive on in. Horse boys, welcome too. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Amplify Horse Racing podcast in collaboration with the Retired Racehorse Radio podcast. So we're super excited to bring our audience members this really special episode with a group that I admire, a podcast that I've been able to be part of in the past, and a mission that Kaitlin and I are both really passionate about when it comes to off-the-track thoroughbreds. So I'm excited to welcome Kristen Kovatch Bentley and Joy Orr, both co-hosts of the Retired Racehorse Radio podcast. And for any RRR podcast members who are new to the Amplify podcast, I'd like to introduce you to Kaitlin Christopherson, who is my co-host. She is part of GSS, the marketing agency. So we love their work and they help us out at Amplify Horse Racing. So thank you so much for joining today, and we're so excited to dive in. Kristen and Joy, thanks so much for jumping on board with this wonderfully crazy idea.
Yeah, this is going to be so much fun. We love doing collaborative stuff like this. So, and no better folks to do it with. So thanks very much for having us.
Absolutely.
I had joined Joy on the Retired Racehorse Radio podcast back in 2020. I think it might have been. I think it was December.
Has it been that long? Back when I had a normal voice. That's so exciting.
And then we finally met in person by accident last year when Amplify was hosting an event at Kaitlin for Retired Racehorse Project participants to come out and learn about morning training. And you were having a donut, and we finally got to meet. So I didn't realize it was you.
I know. Like, so you saw me and you're like, Joy? I was like, Annise? Like, it was great. It was great to finally meet you because I felt like we've had so many conversations. I mean, we have because you were on the podcast, but even in between, it's been such a pleasure seeing everything you've been doing with Amplify and then get a chance to meet you. It just felt like, long-term friendship. It was great.
I love the long distance friends. Like, I've met several of my best friends through social media or, through the podcasting or media community in the equine industry. And so it's so fun to be able to have collaborations like this. And I'm just so pumped to have you guys on. It's a small world in equine land, and even smaller when you get into thoroughbreds. So I think to start off, I actually don't know a lot of the history of the Retired Racehorse Radio. Can you guys talk through how it developed and how it came to be, how long you've been around?
Yeah, I can take that one. I'm going to apologize to all your listeners because I don't normally sound like this, but I was lucky enough to get the winter sickness that everyone got, but couldn't miss this for the world. I'm so excited to be here. But if you listen to Retired Racehorse Radio, you'll hear my normal voice. You will. So the history about our podcast is I pitched the idea to Horse Radio Network in 2018. I had just gotten my first off the track thoroughbred and realized it was a very big learning curve to kind of retrain her for that. Like a really big learning curve. I was crying a lot. And then I found myself, yes. And I was like digging for information constantly. And I was like, there's so many people who get these horses. There's got to be a better way to do this. I hope I'm not the only person crying after every time going to the barn. So I pitched this idea. The initial project was called the Thoroughbred 30, and it was going to be like a 30-minute training podcast. And I love how it evolved to Retired Racehorse Radio, where we got to partner. We officially launched February of 2019. So we're coming up to our 5th birthday, which is wild and bizarre. Still can't believe people listen. That shocks me regularly. But we ended up making this more a holistic overview of aftercare and retraining and healthcare and how do you rehab. We partnered with New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program, where their head trainers come out and offer training advice and we feature an adoptable horse every single episode, which I really love. That was super important to me because my horse came from New Vocations. And then we also partnered with the Retired Racehorse Project, which is how I met Kristen, and to feature the Thoroughbred Makeover that really goes into the second careers of horses and just shows the diversity that thoroughbreds can offer to people. Now we've really gotten to branch into standardbreds too. So it's just coming full circle. We've done quarter horses, Arabians, and we even had an episode on greyhounds, which I know they're not horsey, but they race too. So anyone who's been on a track is welcome.
I love that. And we're all dog fans. Like if you're a horse fan, you're a dog fan too.
I know.
So.
Mine's like running around right now. So you might see her at some point. Who knows?
Natural collaboration there. No, and I love that. We were all talking before the show about the different riding disciplines that we're all involved in our personal horsey lives. You know, Kaitlin is at a hotel because she's at a horse show right now, and she's into the hunter jumper world. And last year I dove into polo, which has now become a complete and total obsession. Kristen, I was saying I had no idea that you were involved in the working ranch horse. Like you actually use your off the track thoroughbreds for working on your family's ranch. Enjoy, you're involved in dressage. So Kristen, handing it over to you, how did you come to this crazy world of off the track thoroughbreds?
So I think like a lot of people, I saw the video from the makeover and I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. I think I could do that. Because I think in 2017, they ran it like reined cow horse. So you were, coming out and boxing a cow, taking it down the fence and circling it, which is extremely hard to do with a quarter horse that's purpose bred for that in a year. And I was like, I don't understand how people are doing this with thoroughbreds, but I also think I could do that because I had a whole lot of like false hubris at the time and really thought I was, hot. So probably the same year actually that Joy was crying on her way home. So was I a lot with my also chestnut thoroughbred trying to get him ready for the makeover. But we had an excellent time at the makeover. We were 7th in ranch work. We participated in freestyle. So that year at the makeover, they had taken cows out of ranch work. And I was like, that was like my one advantage. Like, so they've taken that away. So for freestyle, I found a local cattle producer and she brought me a cow in a trailer and dropped the cow in the ring. And I just chased it around for 5 minutes and then put it back on the trailer and she left. So, so I still got to work my cow at the makeover. And then right after that, then this communications manager position opened up at Retired Racehorse Project. And they were like, hey, are you ready to make a move? And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And I've been there ever since. So we always say like results not typical. When you do the makeover, you don't necessarily also then get hired by RRP, but it worked out for me that time. So, and then Joy, when did I join Retired Racehorse Radio? Like 2 years ago?
Yeah, going on 2 years now.
About 2-year anniversary in the spring. So,
but I will say you were like an ad hoc guest because you would come on pretty frequently.
I would come on a lot, yeah.
So you're like an unofficial host, and then we just made it official.
Right. Yeah, I just got my foot in the door and then my whole leg and then the whole rest of me. Yeah. So.
Enjoy.
But yeah, I mean, they make great ranch horses. We have a lovely time with them. So my husband rides our other one. So we couldn't figure out how to beat the ranch winner in 2018, so we bought him. So that's the horse my husband rides.
that really worked out.
Yeah, it worked out great for all of us. So yeah. So and it's just fun. It's nice to be able to share that with my husband too. So because otherwise I'd be at the barn all day and he wouldn't see me. So he's like, well, this way I get to see you. So
yeah, might as well join him.
Right.
That is awesome. And Joy, how about the dressage world? It sounds like you started with Arabians, and then where did Thoroughbreds come into the picture for you?
Yeah, so I started with Arabians, which is also a very non-traditional dressage horse. My parents hoped that I would get into reining. That was the goal. That's what they were breeding their Arabs for. I was like, no thanks. That saddle's too heavy for me, and I'm lazy. So I went the English world. And I took a couple lessons on some warm bloods, and that was fine. They were so much bigger than my Arabians, so that was a bit scary. I went from like a 14-2 Arab to a 17-3 Percheron Thoroughbred cross. Very interesting. My father, I think, almost had a small stroke that day. But as I got older and, my horses were getting older, I had my Arabs all through the last years of their life. I'm 5'8", and I was ready to get my next horse. And I love the quickness and hotness of an Arab. They're so smart. They're so personable. And Thoroughbreds have that same tenacity. And so I was invited by one of my friends to go to the local racetrack. And he's the one who introduced me to them and took me to his farm. Oddly enough, he was fostering my horse from New Vocations that I have currently. Is a trap. It's a total trap to get her. It's fine. And ever since, I just can't see going back. She's been everything that I've asked for. Some things I haven't asked for. They were surprises. But for the most part, it's just, she's made me such an incredible horseman. I wouldn't be half the rider I am today without her.
Or the everything, I'm much better at nutrition. I'm a lot better at first aid.
Oh my gosh. Well, maybe not my horse. My horse is a cockroach. She's going to survive a nuclear war.
Yeah, your horse is in good shape. Mine are constantly trying to off themselves. So I'm trying to get really good at all the other parts of horsemanship too. So thanks.
But guys. Mental health wise, that's a trade-off because we got 4 whirls. There's a lot of personality in my horse.
I also have a chestnut, not a chestnut mare, but a chestnut gelding, and he's the sweetest boy. Also, I like the description of cockroach, because he would also probably, knock on wood, survive anything, but the whirls are there. So, but Kaitlin also has the New Vocations connection through her off the track thoroughbred. So Kaitlin, talk about the famous Charles.
Charles, I actually, I remember listening to Retired Racehorse Radio when I finally decided that I was ready to start my search and trying to figure out, do as much homework as possible, figure out what I was getting into. I've been working in the industry for some time. I grew up riding actually Arabians and quarter horses also. And I'd been working in horse racing for about 5 years, and I just knew how many beautiful, talented, athletic horses there were out there. And my initial research was a lot of Retired Racehorse Radio listening, any podcasts or any information I could get my hands on. And I found Charles during COVID. He was actually at their Covington, Louisiana facility. And he, I think he was on the website for a couple of days. And then my friend said we were actually doing some client work. It was about 8 months into COVID. We were in Charlestown, West Virginia, for the races at Charlestown. And my partner, Molly McGill, said, there were 2 thoroughbreds I was looking at, and, she saw Charles, and all I had was video of him just trotting around an arena. Didn't know if he could jump, didn't know if he wanted to jump, didn't know, if he wanted to have a saddle on him, anything. But I went for it, put the deposit down, and he showed up about 2 weeks later. And so, yeah, we celebrated our 3rd year together this September. And he has been, I mean, I completely relate to the crying, like it's tears, sweat, blood, the self-doubt, the feeling or like the thinking going in with a lot of hubris and thinking you know exactly what you're doing and exactly what the road ahead looks like, and then having that change about 50 million times. But he's been fantastic. I owe so much to him. We've achieved our goals. He's taken me from or we've taken each other from the 2-foot hunters to now the national derbies. And he is just fantastic. He's taught me so much horsemanship and so much feel for, you know, exactly not just for jumping, but for just developing a horse properly, getting them balanced, getting them physically, you know, mature and ready. He, you know, like all horses, he has his things. So we have to monitor and keep a close watch on his feet. And, you know, he gets his benefits from his chiro and PEMF and all of that. But what he gives back to me and what he's given back to me is, I mean, my riding, you know, I took a 15-year hiatus between when I was 15 years old and when I was 30. And I would never have thought that I would be back at this level, you know, within a couple of years, and it's all because of him. So yeah, Charles, he's wonderful. And I think the thing there is, you know, you have to stick with it. I will have to say, like, it truly, I mean, even to this day, he's almost 7. I got him when he was 3. It still takes a village. The best thing that happened was that at the time, my boyfriend, now fiance, we had been dating, and it was like relatively new, but he was very, very supportive of it. And he has been Charles's biggest fan on the days when I've come home from the barn and said, I can't do this anymore. So having that support around you, you know, whether it's family or significant other or a group of horse friends, podcasts, it has to be there.
For any of the Amplify listeners out there that might not have been through the journey of retraining an off-the-track thoroughbred, we don't want to scare you away. This is an educational experience, and this is why you should check out other podcasts like Retired Racehorse Radio. But we, Amplify, again, this year hosted the same event that you came to last year, Joy, in that during the Retired Racehorse Makeover, we hosted a morning out at Kaitlin to invite RRP participants and supporters to come watch morning training and to learn about how racehorses are trained. Because by the time you get a horse that has come off the track, it's like, you know, being a adult that has gone to university to get your undergrad in one subject, and then you realize that you can't have your career in that anymore, so now you have to go back and get a new undergrad for something. And I think it really
your body physically.
Yeah, exactly. Redevelop your, you know, your body physically, mentally. And I think people are really surprised, and it really helps too when they understand, you know, well, oh, now I see why my horse doesn't respond to leg pressure. He has a rider on his back, or had a rider on his or her back with their stirrups hyped way up. So leg pressure was not necessarily a thing. You know, standing for a mounting block, not a thing when your horse is at the track. You know,
I think working alone is a big one. Like,
yeah,
it's hard for me to work horses alone initially because they're rarely alone on the track. You know, even if they're breezing, there's other horses out there with them, so they're never really solo.
Well, even like manners you take for granted, like cross tying or standing outside the stall or not having a standard routine. So then they get
Yeah.
antsy. And, you know, with letdown time or aftercare programs, some of those things can get whittled out before it comes to you. But if you're getting one right off the track, you know, our show really does try to tell the story from the track so you know why they have those behaviors when you do bring them home. So you're not getting frustrated and you're like, why are you like this? Well, they don't know anything else.
Yeah.
And to your comment, Annise, about not trying to scare anybody off, that's absolutely the case. I would just, you know, my advice now to people, I honestly think everybody should do it. I want to see more hunter jumper people doing it because I think they need it, honestly. You know, it's one thing to jump around a warm blood that has been born and bred to do that, but to develop your eye and your riding style on a horse that has to be, you have to use a lot different finesse on, is entirely different thing. I would just say for anybody doing it, you know, just be prepared. It's going to make you a better rider and a better person. I think I've learned a lot about leadership within my company, and just, you know, there's a lot of like emotional maturity that, you know, has to come to get through the toughest parts. So be prepared to become a better rider and a better person, but just know that you are going to question yourself a lot. You're going to doubt yourself a lot. You're going to wonder if you ever understood horses at all, or if it was all just a fluke. So just be prepared to have a transformational experience.
Yeah, I think it's the ultimate rite of passage. They're a horseman's horse. Absolutely. Like, you know, if you want to know if you're a horseman, get yourself an off-track thoroughbred and
then you'll
take that thing by the reins. Yep.
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, oh my God, I'm not. I don't know what I'm doing. You know? But you'll come out the other side and it'll all be great. So yes, everybody should do it.
That is so funny. I love that. I remember the first time when my horse Larry, I did not have a great facility to retrain him at. We didn't have an indoor or an outdoor arena. It was like a pasture and a gravel road or riding in the paddock. And he definitely, when I took some good contact on his mouth, was like, "Oh, that means go." And he ran me down a ditch and into a farmer's field. And it's so funny now because he's the sweetest, most docile horse that I just trail ride with him. But we definitely had our come to Jesus moments over time. But that's okay. Again, I'm a better person now. Now I can process more, or think more about what the horse is thinking and feeling, regardless of what horse I'm riding or what discipline it is. You know, I think maybe now I have a more horse first mentality rather than being so focused on my riding. It's more like, how can I respond to what the horse is telling me as I ride? So
I'd agree with that. I'd 100% agree with that.
So I don't want to commandeer the conversation, guys. I feel like I just ran with it. This is our co-podcast.
Well, I was going to ask the same, like very similar question for our listeners who might not be familiar with Amplify, just to kind of give a high level of what you do and a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, so Amplify is a 501c3 nonprofit to get youth and young adults involved in the thoroughbred industry and hopefully introduced to pathways to further involvement. So whether that's a career, maybe that's becoming an owner, maybe it is taking on an off-the-track thoroughbred, maybe it's becoming a more educated and involved fan. So whatever your interest level and avenue is that you want to go down, we want to help to support you in that. And it's very funny, a lot of our partners and people who we work with through Amplify, Kaitlin being a great example, are, you know, not originally from a state that has heavy involvement in the thoroughbred industry, but somehow we became interested and got connected to this amazing world. And so we're very passionate about if there is a youth somewhere, regardless of what state you're in and how you become interested, whether it's through watching racing on TV. We have a lot of youth who come to us because they saw a movie about a racehorse like Seabiscuit, Secretariat, Dreamer, Racing Stripes. We talked a lot about the movie Seabiscuit on another recent episode.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. For me, it was the movie Ruffian, and you want to embark on that path to be involved. We want to make it easier. So we do behind the scenes educational tours. We have a mentorship program that's really geared towards 15 to 25-year-olds approximately. We don't have a hard and fast age if you're out of that age range. And if you're under 18, you have parental support. Or if you're over 25 and you want to embark on this journey, you can apply for our mentorship program, and we'll pair you up with an industry professional in your area of interest. Or if you don't know yet what area of interest you have, we'll pair you up with somebody who's compatible personality-wise, and they can work together over the course of 3 months to develop really a next step plan. So, whether you want to go into the aftercare world or learn about sales or the racetrack or marketing and communications, veterinary medicine, we're going to try to set you up with the best possible opportunities to learn and engage with that avenue of the industry. So our resources have really expanded. Kaitlin has been with the podcast from the very beginning. And, this has turned into an incredible resource for us to be able to share with people about, explaining avenues of the industry in a really educational, non-industry jargon way. Because I think that the equine industry in general, we have a lot of terminology that we would understand, but somebody who's outside of that would, think it sounds like a foreign language. So we go through and try to explain very nuanced aspects of the industry in a way that somebody could understand and makes it more approachable. So everything from another recent episode was talking about settlements. I'm not even going to try to explain it. Just go listen to the podcast because it's really complicated, but essentially understanding where money goes after it's been wagered on horse racing to, what the day in the life of a racetrack executive entails. We've had veterinarians on, we've explained rules and regulations. We talk about aftercare. So trying to just lower those barriers to entry and make the process as approachable as possible.
And I think sorry, just to add to that, Annise, I was going to say, I think what we're trying to do is provide resources that we may not have had when we first got into the industry, because we have very similar stories, being from North Dakota, being from Texas, and then being horse girls, but not race horse girls. And, seeing a movie or, reading a book and being inspired and eventually making our way to Lexington and finding a path in the industry. But it was, took a lot of tenacity and ambition and just kind of being in the right place at the right time. And I think if we want this sport to continue to grow and evolve, which is going to make it better for everybody, including the retired racehorses, we need to keep bringing young, energetic, excited people with different viewpoints and different experiences and different backgrounds into the industry.
Very well.
I love that. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's like it feels like, when you just drive around or go visit farms and stuff in Lexington, you're like, this feels like an old white man thing. Very much like, so I think it's so cool what you guys are doing to help bring in, just.
Yeah. You're like, if I step on this property, will I immediately be arrested?
Right, yeah. Like, ooh, am I allowed to be here?
A little bit. Yeah. It kind of feels that way. But.
So we want to make it more accessible. And, it's I guess it goes back to that saying, like, you can't be what you can't see. And Kristen, that is a good point. You know, I think a lot of people who aren't involved in the industry would have a very distinct picture of who the faces of thoroughbred racing are. And, you know, the more that we can diversify amongst, you know, how we're engaging young people, where we're engaging young people, showing anybody that they can have an opportunity to be part of the sport, you know, the better it's going to make the whole industry, because we're adding new and fresh ideas, new faces, and, you know, it just makes it more fun, right? It's already a global sport, so you might as well just make sure that people from everywhere and anywhere know that they can be part of it and take advantage of the opportunities that it offers.
And that's why we're so excited to collaborate with you guys, because I think a lot of people, like, their first involvement with a thoroughbred is an off the track horse. You know, if they're a horse girl that takes a lesson on an OTTB and they don't know, you know, anything else. And that's not to say that all OTTB riders are racing fans and vice versa, you know, because they're just not completely inclusive, you know, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to like racing to ride a thoroughbred, and you don't have to be into OTTBs and horse sports to be into racing. But I think there is so much room for those worlds to come together and realize that, like, we're all on the same side here. So,
yeah. The more you understand, I think I probably lived in a bubble for a long time too. I was so, I'm going to use the saying, blinkers on, to just, you know, learn about racing, immerse myself in racing. I loved horses, but kind of like Kaitlin, I took a little hiatus for a while. But I think the more I've learned about other riding disciplines, and I've really, you know, I guess a lot of that is through the thoroughbred aftercare world, you know, expose myself to other disciplines and other sectors of the equine industry, the more it enriches your entire experience and opens your eyes to all the opportunities that are out there in horses in general. You know, it's great to have your bubble that you're really passionate about, but I think it's also great to explore other avenues of the industry. And again, Kaitlin, you're such a good example of that, because you balance your career, which, you know, lends itself heavily to racing, so well with your passion, which is showing. And I think that's awesome.
Thanks.
You guys,
always been a goal of mine to be able to horse show and work at the same time. So
that is the dream, right? Like,
not being professional, because a professional rider, because that was definitely not going to happen. But it's something that, and as I am into it more now, and now that I do have this horse that, you know, we've now competing successfully in the national derbies and the adult hunters, like, I have a platform that I can show people who from both worlds that might not be totally, you know, that their thought process might not be, oh, thoroughbreds can still be hunters, or it might not be in the, you know, racehorse world, oh, we need more exposure at, you know, the rated shows for thoroughbreds. So I feel like I'm able to, like, as you mentioned, balance both of those things and hopefully, like, educate both sides, because it's what I experience and see, like, on a daily basis when I'm competing. I think some people still think that thoroughbreds can't be competitive as hunters, and, you know, it's understandable. People are spending insane amounts of money to import horses from Europe, but it's definitely, it can be proven otherwise, that with time and dedication and the right partner, you know, something that I was saying to Annise before we hopped on was, so I'm actually at a jumper show this weekend, and I don't have my thoroughbred with me because he is strictly a hunter. I think a lot of people think, oh, a retired racehorse, it can really only go fast. You know, it can't do, like, the best lead changes, or it needs to be an eventer or a jumper if it's gonna jump something. he's the opposite. He is a hunter through and through. So he has no interest in jumping brightly colored sticks. And it just goes to show, you know, how much potential is out there in every horse. And I think the Retired Racehorse project, one of the amazing things that it does is show how versatile the breed is, because it truly, you know, I always thought Arabians were very versatile and quarter horses, but I mean, I'm not sure, you know, I love all breeds to be certain, but I'm not sure that you could have a similar competition for other breeds where you would be able to have so many different disciplines that you can show the horses it can excel in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I think that is I think it is one of the few events like that where you can stand in one spot and pivot, you know, on the spot and be like, there's 10 disciplines going on right now, you know, and a lot of horses cross enter too. So, you know, like we don't see a lot of crossover between some disciplines, but like there's polo, there's freestyle, there's ranch work, there's hunters, there's jumpers, there's the eventing, you know, the typical thoroughbred.
The field hunters.
The field hunters. Oh my gosh, that's like the most fun to watch those. So yeah, that's my shameless plug to come out to the makeover, everybody, and watch the field hunters in the morning. But it's a lot of fun.
Future goal of mine, definitely to do polo at the makeover.
Oh, heck yeah. We would love to see you there. That'd be awesome.
5-year plans, 5-year plan, vision board, definitely on there.
Oh, let's accelerate that. 3-year plan.
Love that.
We'll get you there. Yeah. That'll be fun. So with you guys with Amplify this year, do you have, you know, particular success stories with the mentorship program in particular, or like notable alums or anything cool to share with that program?
Yeah, a couple of really interesting stories. We had a mentee from our first year when we launched the program. You know, we launched it as a pilot project with specific parameters. We didn't want to accept, you know, a whole herd of mentees in our first year. We wanted to have a pretty limited amount, be very targeted, and, you know, who we're pairing them with for mentors, making sure that we're kind of handpicking mentors that we knew were going to be very good mentors. And now we have a very specific training program and orientation for people who want to be mentors. They have to have letters of recommendation and a background check and all of that. So we had a mentee in our first intake in 2021 who had already graduated university and had a full-time job, but he was very passionate about racing and had no idea where to start in even considering a career in the industry. And his professional field was in accounting. And when he came into our program, he, you know, we accepted him because he was really ambitious and excited to learn more and wanted to pursue a career. But at the time, it wasn't going to make sense for him to leave his current job to just move on and work in the racing industry. And now 2 years later, this year, he reached out to me and said, you know, I'm ready to move on to a new job, and I want that to be in the thoroughbred industry. I'm willing to relocate states. He was in Michigan, and he now has a job working at TaylorMade here in Lexington, Kentucky. So that was a really exciting example of, you know, you never know when and how it might fit into your life, but if you have a dream and it's something you're very passionate about and you follow that and you follow up with people who are willing to help you, you know, we want to help people make that transition. We had another one of our first intake mentees. He went through the University of Arizona racetrack industry program. He's a senior now, and I was at the Global Symposium on Racing in December, and they had a small presentation there for students and award winners, and he was selected as the top, like honored as the top senior in his program. So it's very exciting to see him. We've had a multitude of mentees that have gone on to, you know, careers and internships in the industry. And I'm so proud. And whether or not they go on to actually work in racing or work in the thoroughbred industry in some capacity, at least we know they're leaving our program with a better understanding and a respect for how the industry works. And hopefully they've had a positive experience and they can, speak positively about the thoroughbred industry as a whole. Kaitlin, on our last episode, got to meet two of our star mentees from this year, Sydney Patrick and Paula Castro. They are both, one of them is interested in breeding and really the farm world. The other one is interested in veterinary medicine. They were selected we did a special travel award program this year for outstanding mentees. We awarded them with a travel grant to come to Kentucky in November and really go behind the scenes of all aspects of the industry. So they went to Ashford Stud. We went to WinStar to learn about breaking and training. We went to New Vocations. They got to experience the Keeneland November sale, look at horses with a consigner, look at horses with a bloodstock agent. We had a young professionals networking event. So it was a really exciting year for the mentorship program. I could go on about it for a long, long time. But on the subject of exciting things this year, I was telling Kaitlin this earlier, I would say the highlight of 2023 was actually BreyerFest. We were a little bit trepidatious about dipping our toes into that world because I had never gone to BreyerFest as a kid. It was always something I probably would have loved to do, and I still to this day have a ton of Breyer horses, but it was such a great place to interact with kids that are just so hungry to be involved with horses. Like there were a lot of them that we interacted with, and actually Amplify teamed up with Horse Country to conduct engagement there, have what we called an activation. So we had an equicizer where kids could learn how to ride a racehorse. We had a photo op with a giant life-size picture of Rachel Alexandra, a touch and feel feed station, a touch and feel tack station. We gave away a thoroughbred themed Breyer horse every day. We taught kids how to make a racetrack in a test tube. And the kids they asked such good questions, and they just want to be around horses, learn more about horses, immerse themselves in the horse world. And so it's so fun. And I'm sure you guys can appreciate this as a horse girl, to take yourself back to being a horse kid and just being so hungry for that immersion with horses. So BreyerFest was 10 out of 10. We will be there every year. Come visit us.
That's awesome. That sounds like such a rewarding year. And like the work that you get to do is so rewarding too. Like I used to teach riding at the university level for a few years right after I graduated university myself. But like one part I really miss is like the mentoring young people that are really happy to be learning. And like that's the part I miss the most, is like that rewarding process of like, seeing people leave your program and like know that they're, at least they have the tools, to continue if they want to. So that's really cool. Yeah, good for you guys.
Well, and a couple of other successes, just to mention really quickly, Annise, is, our work with the Horse Racing Women's Summit.
Yes.
And both of us being there, you spoke or you were on a panel, about Amplify mentorship specifically. And then we even got to meet Paolo there, which was fantastic because her Amplify mentor was the one who convinced her to come. And she was absolutely lovely and met so many amazing women in the industry, all the way from friends and peers her age to Stephanie Horonis. And that was just huge. And then Annise, you moderated at Racing Symposium last week on success stories in thoroughbred racing for the year.
I'm glad you touched on the Horse Racing Women's Summit, because Kristen and Joy, you guys should definitely put it on your, already very busy calendars. I know
I mean,
that
I
time of year
just Googled, I'm like, okay, tagging that for later because I need to talk to them.
Yeah, it is so much fun, and it's such a welcoming, inclusive environment. And so, yeah, it was awesome to see a couple of our mentees be able to come and actually connect with their mentors there in person. And Kaitlin, it was partially you who really gave me the push that I needed to put the Global Symposium on Racing on my agenda for this year. And then getting asked to moderate was like the final, you actually need to go. But it was awesome to actually make it out to, conferences and symposiums and have that further engagement with the industry. And but Joy and Kristen, HRWS next year. Put it on your calendar because it's a blast.
Great.
We will hopefully be releasing some information very early in 2024 about meetups and dates and the summit. So,
all right, yeah, we'll put it on our calendar, because who knows? That'd be fun. Joy and I never get to actually meet in person, so it'd be really cool to actually go to an event together. We talk.
Kristen, are you in New York?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like rural New York. Like everyone's like, oh, New York City. I'm like, no, like Buffalo, like south of Buffalo. It's actually faster for me to get to Lexington than it is for me to get to New York City. So.
Wow. And Joy, you're in Michigan, right?
I am. I'm in the Metro Detroit area. So Chris and I actually live like 4.5 hours from each other.
It's
not
that
a
far.
bad drive.
Yeah.
But like the one time we got together, it's like a whole weekend for our husbands just to hang out.
Oh my God, they had so much fun.
They did have fun, but I would love to do something where it doesn't involve them.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. But yeah, if there's like a horse racing women's husband symposium, we could just, the two of them can set that up and hang out together. And
or just leave them at home. That's fine too.
That's also fair.
I love that. My boyfriend is involved in racing, and I have another friend whose boyfriend is more like a horse show boyfriend in training, and they ran into each other. Like we all met up at the Fasig-Tipton November sale, and it was so funny. It was like the horse husbands unite. It's like they had their own.
It's a thing. They did it at the makeover too. Like they like find each other, and it's like this little pod. I'm like, you all make fun of girl groups, but look at you.
Oh yeah, they move in a pack. Yeah, like that's why we got the beer truck that one night. It's for the guys. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's like that scene in Step Brothers. Like, do we just become best friends? They're all like,
yeah,
and they all run around together.
I know. It's like Zach, Neil, and Neil Agate and Tom Mann. They all got together.
Oh no! Once you get Tom Mansman involved.
Oh my gosh! And they were just going for like, oh, let's like get a big Airbnb next year, guys, and like we'll do like these big cooking classes because my boyfriend's in the culinary world, and I'm like, what? I just want to enjoy this horse show. I want to get some good interviews. Like, what are you doing right now? It's like, we're gonna go to the Mansmans and we're gonna go do polo down there. It's like, what? He's got the whole year planned out.
I love that. One last thing to worry about entertaining though. Like at least you know that they can entertain themselves.
True.
Yeah, just turn them loose. They'll
figure it out. And I like too that there's that camaraderie of like, oh, does your wife or significant other, do they do this with their horses? Are they always talking about them? Are they always stressing about them? And it's like, you are with a horse girl. What do you like? We have some very common threads that run among us. And so
a support group together, to be honest, would probably be very popular.
We actually did a husbands episode where we had Joy's boyfriend and my husband Eric were our main guests, and then we had our network head Glenn interviewed them about being a racehorse husband. Yes. So that was a good time. So we're here for everybody.
So funny. There really is something for everyone in this world.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. If you can think of it, there's a podcast for it. So yes, welcome to this world.
That's true.
What was your guys' highlight of 2023?
Well, actually, like for us as a podcast, I think honestly the weekend we got to actually spend together, like goofing around, was really, really fun. Because
I know,
otherwise
it's been years in the making. Like even before our podcast in Kristen, I think I was an auditor in 2014. Like you and I have been talking for years. Like we're going on to like 10 years of knowing each other.
Like internet friends. Yeah. Never give up. You'll meet your internet friend someday. Is the moral of
Yes.
the story.
Exactly. So that was just a lot of fun. And I feel like a big highlight for me in particular was our Making the Makeover series. It was our second year doing it, but I just felt like it really solidified the concept. So when we first started Retired Racehorse Radio, we would feature a competitor for the Retired Racehorse Project all the way from March up until like show date in October. And in the beginning, like we changed who it was each time to try to hit as many disciplines as possible. And it was fun. But the way we changed it the last 2 years, where we had like a core group of people joining us every episode, and you got to see every part of their journey. And that was really cool. And I feel like they, for me and for Kristen too, like they become lifelong friends. I Snapchat with most of them, or at least talk to them every day. And, you know, we cried with them, we laughed with them. Like the theme of this year was like, well, you know, if it wasn't great, at least it's content. Like,
yeah, we're going to put that on a t-shirt. Yeah.
yeah. And like they would find each other at the makeover and like they hype each other up. And it's just, it was really rewarding that we kind of helped create a smaller community, but like they're the people you're rooting for at the end of the day. Like people got to know them months before and then see them compete. And that was a really rewarding experience. So excited to have our third cycle coming up. It's wild. And we had a lot of applicants too, which was really cool to be a part of that.
So you guys, people can actually apply to be featured?
Yeah.
We just put a post out in the trainers group. So there's a closed secret group. I don't know if it's a secret group or not, but it's a group on Facebook for past and current makeover trainers. So once applications go out, you know, people can join, and then, you know, it's just kind of a safe place for them to be like, oh my gosh, my horse is doing X, Y, or Z, please help me. And we just put out a call of like, who wants to talk about their makeover journey and is comfortable talking about their makeover journey. And a lot of people think they are, and then you turn the recorders on and they're like, ugh. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, but like people who are like willing to be candid about like what's going great and what's also not going great. You know, that's a big thing, is like, you have to be willing to talk about the ugly parts too. You know, but like, we'll make it fun. We'll make it great. And yeah, we got like 20 some people who were like,
because the first year we handpicked them just to ensure we were picking people who like stuck with the mission of the makeover, because we don't want it to be like too self-promoting either. We wanted people
who are willing to tell their story and talk, you know, and then people that kind of like represent sort of the gamut of trainers, you know, so like adult amateurs who are doing this for the first time. We have professionals. I think we had a junior last year.
We did. And like, she was so well-spoken. Like,
I know, I was like,
she was like 30.
17-year-old, like, gosh.
And she was showing every week. And I'm like, I need like just half of her energy. I'd be so successful.
The makeover this year in general was just like such a cool experience for us, you know, because I'm there full time anyway for working for RRP. But the number of people who came up to us, like just walking around the horse park, and were like, hi, I don't know you, you don't know me, but like I listened to the podcast and I just want to say I love you guys. It was like really moving, like the number.
It was like the first time being recognized in public, and it scared me because people are like,
it was weird.
And I'm like,
hi,
do I know you? Like, I listened to Retired Racehorse Radio. I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I get so excited about it. But the first initial would scare me. Like, do I know these people?
Yeah, it was weird, like the first day. But yeah, by like Thursday afternoon, I was like, this is really cool. You know, that like so many people listen and like go out of their way to tell you that they appreciate, you know, what you're doing. So it was really neat, you know, because otherwise it just feels like Joy and I are just like screaming into the void twice a month, which is fine. We're happy to do that, but it's also good to know that like there's listeners and they respond well and they like it, you know. So yeah, thank you guys.
So, Annise and I, we totally do the same thing. We're like, well, we know we always have 2 listeners. Our moms.
It's us. Yep. Our producer, thank you. Yeah.
Then actually, it was great this year. There were like a couple of full circle moments when so one of the interns that we ended up bringing on for Women's Summit, she found out about Women's Summit through listening to our podcast, and that was great. We hope we can do more like that in the future.
I actually think we have a listener in the mentor program this year. So, and also someone I know from our horse show
Amazing.
series. So yeah, she got hit with thoroughbreds on multiple sides and was like, I think I'm going to do this thing. So
That
shout
is
out to Laren.
so- Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, that is. I
So
love
yeah, Laren,
that.
if Laren listens to both podcasts, she's like, all right now. Because she's gonna be like, wait a minute. So but yeah, we
Laren-
also show with her. So
Laren's mentor, she got a really, I mean, all of our mentors are cool and awesome. Shout out to all of our amazing mentors who share their time with us. But her mentor is Jessica Paquette, who is the announcer for Parks and the first female announcer, first woman to announce a grade 1 race in North America, I believe, if I'm correct. So yeah, Laren got a really cool mentor who has some extra special fame, and her mentor, I can confidently say because I talked to her last weekend, also loves Laren. So we love her.
I don't want to embarrass Laren, but like it was the first
I
horse show
want
of the
to
year.
embarrass Laren.
Okay, I'm going to embarrass Laren. So sorry, Laren. And I was like leading my horse through the showgrounds, and it was early. I was like, I think right after everybody got paired up, and she pops out of her horse trailer and she's reading her phone, and she's like, "Do you know who Jessica Paquette is?" And I was like, "Girl, girl, you don't even know. Like, you scored big time on this mentorship thing." And she's like, "Okay." I was like, go get dressed for your class. I'll tell you later. Like, it was so cute. She was just like, who is this? I was like, oh, okay. Because she's very new to the racing industry, but the more, she listens to Retired Racehorse Radio and hopefully is listening to the Amplify podcast. Like, I think she's like the model mentee, of like someone who just wants to get involved and learn more and, wants to find her path. So,
well, like slight side topic, but I was just thinking all this conversation, the mentorship, I was like, oh my gosh, Annise, when you came on to Retired Racehorse Radio, it was for the pilot program of the mentorship program. Like you were just getting started with it. So it's like we've come full circle today, and I'm so excited for that.
We're finally a thing, and it's the same kind of feeling for me. Like when people apply, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're applying. Like,
they like us.
There are people out there. They like us. They're excited.
What I love even more though is I have to embarrass Annise. Give a big shout out to her. I remember when Annise was an intern at Kaitlin on the notes team, and she was because I'm a couple years older than you, so I had already been working in the industry for a bit. I think it was with WinStar, already with Grand Slam at that time. And I just thought, this girl is sharp. She is going places. And, to see what she's done in the past several years, from when we first met, it's not a surprise, but it's fantastic to see. It is doing so much for the industry.
Thank you. And it's amazing to see what we've done and how we've grown, and growing this platform and having these kinds of conversations is so important for, again, like improving accessibility of the industry and making people feel welcome. So it's awesome. I love this stuff. This has been such a fun episode, guys. Thank you so much for jumping on board with this.
Well, thanks for having us, and vice versa.
This was great.
Yes, thank you. Let's do this again.
We should totally do it again.
And tell viewers where people can find you.
You can find us on social media. We are Retired Racehorse Radio on Facebook and Instagram. And if you go to horseradionetwork.com, you can find all of the Horse Radio Network family of podcasts, including Retired.
And we're on any podcast player too. So if you like Spotify, Apple, you can just look up Retired Racehorse Radio.
Awesome. And yeah, same thing for us. We're on Facebook, Instagram at Amplify Horse Racing. We're on X. I have to say X, formerly known as Twitter, at Amplify Racing. People can get in touch with us at info@amplifyhorseracing.org and find us on whatever your favorite podcasting platform is. It's the Amplify Horse Racing podcast. We keep it very straightforward. So yeah, next time we're all in the same place. We're definitely going to have a Horse Girls / Podcast Friends Unite kind of moment and get together and get all the horse show boyfriends and husbands together as well.
Oh, they'll love
them
it.
up.
They'll love it.
Round them up. And no, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see you guys in person again, whenever that might be, definitely at a horse thing or at a track somewhere. And thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So much. It was so wonderful to meet y'all.
Same.